Hey, what's up guys? JB here. And today on my stream I did my sort of annual class match prep. And this is something I've done for the last several class match seasons. As sort of forewarning, the information that I deliver in the stream is very catered towards the manual PvP audience. In terms of class match, manual is my preferred method to play and definitely what I feel is the best way to play it. And if that's something that interests you or something you've been curious to learn about, maybe you get your toes wet in that particular play style, I highly encourage you to come join us on our live PvP Discord. I do include the link to that Discord in all of my videos, so definitely come join us, ask for a friendly PvP scrim or just absorb the general information there from all of the veteran players. Now this is a longer discussion, so I will divide it up into chapters, so feel free to jump around and listen to the information that's most relevant to you. And definitely let me know what you think. If you found this information useful or interesting, definitely let me know in the comments. As always, hit that like and subscribe button as well. And, with that said, let's dive into the stream. So class match coming in, starting on Wednesday. And first I wanted to kind of ask you guys out there, what were your thoughts on the last CM that we had, just after the 2nd anniversary? That one actually had no sort of cost restrictions on it, which was the first time I can recall that we've done that, at least in a very, very long time. And, personally, I thought that that was kind of interesting, for like a change of pace. But I am glad that we're going back to a cost restriction this time, kind of going back into the normal. And for this season, we have a unit cost of 240, right? And I think that 240 is generally the most restrictive, compared to like the 540 overall cost. At least in terms of what units that you can bring in. The total cost is generally more restrictive in terms of what vision cards and what espers you can use. And from what I understand on the JP side, I think that they've completely dropped the total cost rule set, because of the complications with secondary VCs that, is now introduced from 2nd anniversary onwards. But I'm fine with unit cost, like I said, that's more restrictive in terms of what units you can bring. And I think that makes it a little bit more interesting. Obviously, the lower cost units, that gives them more value, at least for this particular mode. And, potential layouts or loadouts that you can use, I have a few listed here. Obviously, you can go 100, 140. So 2 100 cost units, a lot of people, I think, are going to be looking to that kind of loadout. Or potentially 190, 50. So pretty much ever since, just shortly after the 1st anniversary, we have gone to almost all 90 or 100 cost units being added to the game, for the better part of a year now. And, over the first, 5 or 6 months of, or 5.5 months here into this year, we've gotten almost all 100 cost units, here on the global side. Obviously, with the collaborations, they sprinkled in some 90 costs. And finally, with Resnick coming in this week, we're going back to getting in, general pool units and, 90 cost. So those first two that I have listed there, 100, 140, 190, 50, I expect to see a lot of those particular type of loadouts. Kind of hedging your bets, on 2 particular units and maybe the synergy that they have. And that third sort of lower cost unit is going to be more of a support unit to, maybe they're going to bring haste or some CT mechanics to help you out. Quicken, obviously, that's not allowed, so we probably won't be seeing, units like Shell or Phoebe. But I do expect to see you know, units like Seymour, for example, or Zazan, sort of low-cost Keenblade holders. But yeah, so no Quicken allowed, and you know, as they've been tending to do with that, they're pairing it with healing power down. CT and haste is allowed, and we're on a map size of 11 by 15, so it's a bit longer of a map. And this is Mines 2. We have had this, you know, in auto PvP, you know, it's been in the game, but this is the first time we're having it in class match in particular. So it does have, this map does have, you know, a couple of interesting features. So why don't we take a closer look at it? And here is what the map is, you know, from a top-down view. And obviously, you know, kind of sticking out in the middle there, we have an obstacle, which is the mine carts on this map. Now, obviously, you cannot walk through those or over those. That's why I've marked them in black there. You can, if you have, you know, abilities which can arc, you know, you can, you know, hit over them or through them, so to say. Obviously, units like gunners are going to have issues there, shooting through those. Anything with line of sight restrictions, you know, you're not going to be able to generally shoot through that. But, you know, missile users, or a lot of times, you know, even sword throwers, you know, they can hit through those type of, you know, obstacles. So the columns, though, on either side, those I do not believe you can shoot through generally. So it can be like maybe a line of sight, you know, point of interest, you know, if you're trying to engage in either lane towards the enemy. And I have marked here, you know, several starting positions and kind of what I feel is probably the more common, you know, loadouts. And obviously, you know, you can transpose either of these two to either side here, right? So I've kind of tried my best to kind of mark out, you know, maybe some positioning that we'll be seeing out there. Hey, Sasaki, welcome in, dude. How you doing today? Yeah, I'm looking forward to it tomorrow as well. Hey, Logi, how you doing, man? Welcome in. Yeah, so we're just getting started here. We kind of just took a quick look at the rule set, and now we're jumping in and looking at the map and some potential sort of initial positioning here. So let me see if I can get my mouse here to show up on the screen. I'm not sure I can. There we go. And so the first one I have up here is this, these three here. And this is like my, what I call maybe like a, you know, defensive positioning. Anytime you're in these first two rows here, I think that's more defensive. And if you branch up into, you know, the next couple of rows, that's going to be more of an aggressive positioning, at least as aggressive as we can get on this particular map. But in terms of like holding your affinity, you know, this is a good spot here, or potentially down here as well. This would be a more aggressive positioning over here, you know, kind of moving up into this third and fourth row. But there is several options, you know, if you're going for maybe semi-affinity or maybe no affinity at all. Of course, you can sort of branch out maybe more into the middle here, or maybe do like an offset position as I have shown down here. Or you could go, you know, like a defensive semi-affinity position like I've marked in purple over here. So a lot of different options, you know, some obviously are going to be better than others, but, you know, it also depends on what your general approach is and what style of a team that you have. Obviously, if you're a more ranged team, you're going to be wanting to be probably more in a defensive position. If you're a team that's looking to rush or blitz, you know, you might want to be looking at more of an aggressive position. Aggressive with affinity, or, you know, maybe aggressive with, you know, semi-affinity. How about folks in the chat? Any positions here you think maybe I haven't noted here that could be interesting to use? And I know traditionally a lot of, you know, players on global do like to go for the full affinity sort of starting position. I think with the length of this map, you know, being 15, it may not be as important, because you're really not going to be able to get hit, you know, from turn 1, assuming you're in sort of a defensive loadout. You know, so you could opt to gain a little bit more defense by having some spread, right? Like I have in this purple setup. So, you know, there's a lot of different ways. You know, none of them are necessarily better than the others, but you kind of have to think about these things as you're building your team, and what your sort of initial strategy or cadence is going to be. And kind of thinking about that as you're choreographing and thinking about what your initial turns are going to be. And, you know, depending on which side the enemy is lined up on as well. Obviously, if you're in an aggressive position and, you know, the enemy is also in an aggressive position, you know, you're going to be able to have a skirmish from turn 1. So yeah, all different kind of interesting things to think about. So kind of as is standard, you know, I've prepared the list of new challengers for this season. Also, welcome in, Iswar. How you doing today? If you guys can just confirm for me how the audio levels are, is the music and voice balance okay? Cool. All right, so notable units that have come into the fray, you know, since our last class match. And last class match, you know, obviously that was about 2 months ago, right? So we had Quick Pick last month. And the element which has gotten the most power, you know, the biggest spike, is definitely lightning. And obviously chief amongst that is going to be Esther. Very strong physical bruiser, you know, very, very common to see here at well over 10,000 hit points. Ferris, thank you for the subscription, my man. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Welcome in. Yeah, so Esther, obviously a very strong physical bruiser. Good mobility, great agility. She has that move 4 with the Thief's Lure ability. You know, great physical bulk with her barrier and natural resistances. And Immortal Spirit, of course, which is kind of a meta buff, you know, these days, especially for, you know, top-end PvP. It seems like it's very hard, you know, or much more difficult to run units without those death-defying mechanics like Re-Raise or Immortal. But she brings some nice utility as well. You know, she has that unit resistance and slash resistance down on her limit break. She, you know, in terms of her range, you know, that's definitely one of her weaknesses and something that you can look to exploit, you know, especially if you're, you know, a ranged team yourself. Try to pepper her with a couple of hits, you know, as she tries to engage on you. But her only range 5 move is going to be Taunting Blade. from her paladin sub job. And that's kind of a difficult attack to use in class match, you know, because we don't have the AP crystals anymore. And unless you're running bells on Esther, I really can't see many people wanting to invest, you know, 40 some odd AP to use Taunting Blade very often. Right, because then you're going to be in a position where you're probably AP starved. Unless, you know, you've just spent, you know, 3 or 4 turns buffing up. So range, you know, and you know, that's definitely going to be a concern for Esther if you're trying to use her yourself. But again, you know, something you can use to exploit her, because obviously it's going to take several hits to take her down. We don't really have any usable earth mages in the game that can kind of quickly take her off the board. I don't envision Kilfei really seeing much play. So yeah, she's a tough one to take off the board. You know, even a unit like Oberon, you know, or Noctis, you know, has you know, quite a bit of trouble taking her out. So definitely a huge power bump for Lightning, especially for class match PvP. Hey Lazarus, welcome in, dude. Says, I'm considering 2 teams this CM, both got their advantages against whatever the meta is, but here's hoping it's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, Laz, you can definitely consider, you know, going Thief. I don't know, man. It's do you really want to give up Immortal Spirit just for like a conditional 100% hit? I'm not sure. I don't think that's worth the trade. Esther's main concern is wind. Yeah. Obviously, obviously, little Leela is, you know, chief amongst her concerns. Yeah, I get it, Les. It's, yeah. Personally, I probably wouldn't do that, but yeah, it's certainly there. Ferris asks, will Queen Macherie be able to deal with her? Yeah, she certainly will be able to. Esther is definitely going to be able to do considerable damage to Queen Macherie, but, you know, Queen Macherie doesn't really have any defense, and her hit points are pretty low, but I imagine that her limit break will be able to potentially one-shot Esther. Unless you've really built up Esther's magic resistance with, like, you know, Fenrir and, you know, maybe a smart code or something like that. But yeah, that's going to be a move that can one-shot Esther for sure when that comes in. But yeah, Esther, you know, kind of continuing on, no 100% hit and kind of average or low end innate accuracy. Unless she sort of buffs up and uses her kind of hit mod attack. You know, she's very, very pedestrian in terms of her accuracy. You really, really have to focus on it. And for class match, you really do need to focus on it. Because, you know, evade is going to be, you know, it's going to be out there. So also coming into Lightning is Queen, of course. Everybody got her as a free unit. I'm not sure exactly how many people have worked on her, though, to be honest. I don't think many people have been very excited about her. And, you know, her power level, you know, she's definitely sort of, you know, maybe an attacker / support hybrid unit. She's not like a carry damage unit by any means. I don't think it's going to be her best rule set. I think that her versatility, you know, comes with her ability to also heal. So, you know, maybe a unit that we might see more in the future. But, you know, she's got pretty decent bulk against magical attacks. That's kind of more her forte when it comes to mitigation. And she can actually get pretty decent range, like if you invest into like a gunner sub job with her. She can actually get up to 8 range if you take her concentrate passive and you used aim fire on her. You know, gunner attacks obviously have that base range of 5. So, you know, that's pretty decent, you know, but yeah, I don't really envision we'll be seeing a lot of her. Resnick as well, you know, obviously she's going to be coming out tomorrow. I don't envision a lot of people are going to be rushing her up. And obviously, you know, if they did, you know, she's neutered a little bit, you know, with the healing down rule set. Neutered quite a lot. So I really don't see the appeal to really rush her in for class match this week. And I think a lot of people are going to be skipping her in general. Kind of waiting for her to come because she's our first general pool unit in quite some time. Isvar says, Queen is an interesting unit, but I'd be hard pressed to use a 90 cost for her. Yeah, I agree. I like her. I like her. I like her re-raise the spell. Obviously, that's pretty useful. You know, haste on her LB. Like, she has some good tools. She has some good things about her, especially I think for manual play, where you can really kind of leverage the versatility of her kit a little bit more. But yeah, you just can't really expect too much damage out of her. I did pop Frederica on here as well because she just got her Mastery 2. And I think her Mastery 2 was actually pretty good. And it bumped up her power level, you know, a tick or two. Mainly because, you know, obviously it's adding that 15 lightning attack to her. She got 10 defense pen as well. And the AP consumption of 30% is pretty huge. Right, so that's going to put, you know, like her barrage down into the 30, you know, low 30s for AP usage. And, you know, potentially moves her into a spot where maybe you can forego bells, you know? It kind of depends on your acquired AP and, you know, what TMR you might pop in there instead. I think bells is still probably going to be the, you know, the best way to go if you really want to pepper out a bunch of barrages, but I think that there is room there, you know, depending on the acquired AP setup to run her without it, which is kind of a first for her. Isra says, wouldn't be flashy, but a classic Lightning Ranger team would do well. I think so. I mean, I think I expect to see some Frederikas out there for sure. This is a great ranged map. You know, that 15 length, like we talked about. It definitely, you know, caters, especially with the rule set, it's going to cater to a ranged team. But yeah, so that's the lightning elements. Again, this is going to be, you know, among all the elements, this one got the most power up, you know, since our last CM. Les says either Niv or Fred, because Cloud in their Kingblade is too good. Yeah, you definitely got to have Cloud in there, I would say. Cloud and Fred is the classic combo for sure. What are the comments on Resnick? I like her as a manual unit, but again, not for this particular CM because healing is down. But in the future, I think she's going to be really strong because of the Thief angle. Right, she's got move 4 and she's got Thief to steal hard and steal time. So I really like her maybe paired with Esther to heal her from the backgrounds, maybe in a future CM. I think that could be a pretty good combo. But I mean, obviously that's only going to leave you with 50 costs. But, you know, something you could look at. All right, let's move on to the next element here, and we're going to look at Dark real quick. And, you know, the last several CMs, you know, pretty much ever since Light kind of ascended the throne of dominance, we really haven't seen Dark, you know, at all. You know, Black Rose, Dwayne, you know, they've all kind of been in hiding because of Jaden. I definitely can see that changing a little bit this CM. I think that Joker has enough bulk to take one hit from Jaden. And he can get pretty evasive, you know. Jaden, I think if you heavily invest into accuracy, obviously is still going to be able to hit him, but I don't think it's going to be easy by any means. He can get a pretty good amount of luck, decent amount of evade. But the nice thing about Joker is that he has really nice range himself. He just has the move 3, but he gets up to range 8, you know, assuming he can get an active buff, you know, along with his concentrate passive. And that's really strong. We found, actually I was playing with him last night on Mines 2, and I found kind of inadvertently that it seems that he can, with his one-shot kill attack, he can shoot through the minecart obstacle in the middle. Which is really nice actually for him. Usually most gunner attacks, you know, are subject to line of sight, so apparently Joker is tall enough that he can shoot over those minecarts. Obviously, the other nice thing about Joker is that his accuracy is very strong. And Dark has the vision cards to really amp it up to bring it to next level. So Maiden's of the Rose, you know, Black Rose of the Battlefield, his own vision card. He can get into a position where he doesn't need to necessarily run an Alex ring, and, you know, he's going to have no problem hitting evade units, you know, assuming that you bring those vision cards. So if you're running light evade, I think that you're hoping not to see this guy. You know, he is going to wipe the floor with you if he's played correctly. And he can take a hit from Elena. Obviously, taking 2 hits from Elena or taking, you know, double hits from Jaden, that's probably not in the picture, but he can definitely take 1. And he's got, I believe he has a barrier break, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but he definitely has, he has reaction down, which is nice. And obviously that range, you know, he's going to outrange Elena, so pretty strong, pretty good character. I expect that we're going to be seeing him out there. I'm actually going to be trying to play this guy as well. That's kind of my initial team that I've been trying out. Thanks, Daniel, yeah. Job 25 barrier break. I thought so. So, I mean, if Ellen is coming in on him with a barrier, you know, she's off the board. Obviously, she's got, you know, Immortal to fall back on, but I think a common pairing with Joker is going to be Prompto, right? Prompto's a guy that I hyped up quite a bit when he first came out. And, you know, he hasn't really been able to show his true potential. But I think now, you know, maybe starting this CM, you know, Prompto's a good ranged, you know, unit himself. Also can get pretty good accuracy and good range, so could be a fearsome twosome for sure. And Garvel, of course, we just got his EX, and Garvel was one of the few magical-based units that had significant play in the manual scene back when he came out. You know, he's got pretty good bulk, right? If you consider that he has that barrier. Without the barrier, you know, he's much more You know, he's much easier killed, but his EX gave him that that all damage barrier. He got more hit points. If you're running his vision card, you know, he's got the AoE resist, you know, even more HP. So he can get up there to like 9 or 10k HP, which is pretty significant. Obviously, he's got range 5. He's got that AoE 100% hit. He's got pretty good mobility with his teleporting. So, I don't know. Anybody out there thinking about running Garvel? I think that's, you know, he was good before. I think he still can be good. You know, obviously running into a Jaden or an Elena, he's going to have an easier time with Elena. Jaden, you know, being able to approach a Jaden is going to be difficult for Garvel. He can definitely take a hit though. Like if you can position so that Jaden cannot use his barrier break, then yeah, then maybe you can get there. Just hope you don't get magic reflexed. Farrah says, what does Dark need at this point to be on an even playing field with Light? Well, they need units with Immortal Spirit and Re-Raise is what they need. And that's what they're going to start getting over the next few months. We have the new Leela, 100 cost Leela. And we have Dark Fina. You know, they have those death-defying moves, and really that's, in my opinion, that's what's been keeping Light out there ahead of the game, for, you know, ahead of most elements, you know, over the last 8 to 9 months. Because the removal, like the Re-Raise removal, the Immortal Spirit removal, still not super common in the game. I think we're finally starting to see Light really dissipate in a big way now that Astrius is here. Because obviously with his pursuit mechanic on his limit break, he deals with both of those statuses very well. And yeah, it's much harder to run Light, you know, at least in terms of auto PvP. I think in manual, Light's still going to be a player for sure. But yeah, once Dark gets some units that has, you know, Re-Raise, that has Immortal Spirits, I think they'll be in a better position to compete, you know, across the PvP landscape in general. All right, moving on to the water element. And guys, let me know on feedback. I'm dedicating more towards kind of refreshing ourselves on the units that have come into the meta since our last go around. Let me know if you guys like that, and I'll continue to make it a focus in the future. I've completely dropped out kind of looking at the equipment that's come in because I think that's maybe less important. So I'm really focusing on the characters, and then I'll focus on some, you know, common strategies that we'll see. All right, so Astrius. I think this is going to be the guy that's finally going to get water into the meta. You know, we've already seen it in the auto game. I think that he's going to bring it into the manual game as well. I think anybody that's been playing PvP knows how strong this guy is. Even against a lightning counter, you know, it's not an easy thing to beat him, right? He's pretty bulky. And that, like I said, that pursuit attack that we were just talking about from his limit break, with the non-elemental follow-up damage, you know, it just deletes people. Loja says, I think it's okay. Oh, cool, thanks. Yeah, I think I felt like it was the better way to go, you know. I had some feedback on it in the past too, that maybe kind of dedicating more time to the new units and kind of refreshing ourselves on what we're going to be seeing, what's going to be added in is more relevant. So, but the main weakness of Astrius, kind of similar to Esther, is going to be his kind of total range, right? he only has move 3, so he's going to want, if you're going to use this guy, I think that you definitely want, you know, a Kane's TMR or a Katone TMR. You really want to get him up to move 4. You can maybe hedge your bets and run Sniper Sub on him, and that can get him up to range 6. You know, he does have a range up active buff that he can apply, and then he has the range passive, so he can get to range 6. And you might consider that. I'm not sure. You know, the buffs that he gets from the Strider sub are very, you know, significant and relevant, I would say. So I think that I would just dedicate a move TMR to him and try to run him that way. From the Strider sub, he does have a range 5 attack as well. And I think his like X-based AoE from his main job, it's kind of hard to line up in some cases, but it has really nice range on it as well. And that has like a defense break applied to it. But yeah, I can see folks, you know, trying to run this guy maybe with Uni and maybe like Lara Croft or Winter Victoria if you want to go mono. But he's got great accuracy. Obviously, he has 100% hit as well. He's got Immortal Spirit, so he has that tool to use to approach enemies. And once he gets in on you, you know, he's going to be able, you know, you just can't stop his damage. Even if you're lightning, you know, it's pretty tough to do. Esther is his biggest problem, for sure. Cloud can definitely chunk him and do huge damage on him as well, but Cloud, when it comes to taking his damage, is not going to be as strong. Isra says, I like this Sniper sub with WVic in the party. Yeah. Yeah, Winter Victor is great on this map. If you have her, like, you have Astrius to pair with her, I think that's a great combo. And that leaves you, you know, with 60 costs left over, so you could throw Krace in there, you could throw a lot of units in there at that point, so pretty nice. Daniel says, I'm honestly considering the Dark Range team. Yeah, that's what I've been looking at myself, yeah. I like Prompto, I like Joker, I think it's a good map for them. And obviously the main worry is going to be Jaden. But you know, at least Prompto is able to match the range of Jaden. You know, they both can get up to range 9. So pretty decent. So this is really the only piece for water, you know, other than some new vision cards that we got. There's been no other new units. If anybody can remembers any EX that we got for water in the last 2 months, I don't think we've had any, but I could be misremembering there. But in any event, this guy is obviously the main draw, and like I said, I really think that he is going to put water on the map finally, you know, for the first time in a while for class match play. All right, so next up we have the light elements, and obviously we just got Violet recently with Persona 5 and Elsarel as well. She just got her EX. Celis and Rachus were around for the last CM. But yeah, I think, you know, maybe some folks might be... I don't know, I saw a couple folks try to play around with Celis on the last map. I don't know. Her accuracy is pretty rough. I think like I think Celis's main draw is obviously going to be your positioning and using Runic to sort of let you approach maybe like a heavy magic meta. Outside of that, I can't really see the draw for using her unless you're playing auto. Yeah, I like farm is great. That could be another, you know, you could pair farm with Astrius and maybe throw Zazan in there, maybe to Keenblade, right? So you could throw Kane's TMR on Astrius to get him move 4. You could have move 5 innately on farm, and then Zazan can come up and Keenblade everybody, right? So that could be like a potential blitz team. Yeah, that could be an interesting team. Throw Velis in there. The tough thing that at least personally, my sort of hang up on using Velis this CM is that half of his appeal with his healing is sort of, you know, taken down quite a notch. I think though that you could get around that a little bit if you invest in the healing power on Trust Stones. If you double up and get the 20 healing power on both Velis and, you know, your bruising unit. Of course, Velis has the innate healing power as well. So I think you could get to a point where his heals are maybe in the 3k-ish range. Which could be pretty unexpected, something that you wouldn't expect to see this CM, but could be pretty powerful. And, you know, obviously he brings haste and the AP mechanics, so yeah, could definitely be viable if you were able to pop in that healing power. Oh man, yeah, that team is yeah. I don't want to promote the usage of that team. All right, anyway, back to light, guys, before we get too much on a tangent here. So Violet and Elsie coming in. And let's start with Elsie because I think that Elsorel was a pretty popular manual unit, you know, back prior to first anniversary. I know for me personally, you know, it was a unit that I really liked. You know, she's definitely kind of a bruising sort of utility unit. She brings a lot of different, you know, typed resistances she can bring to the party with Nightblade and Spellblade. Pretty decent bulk, you know, as well. She's got decent HP. She's particularly strong though against like pierce and missile damage. Not nearly as good against slash damage. Which is a problem, right? When you have units like Esther and Astrius potentially out there who can imperil you. But, you know, she's got decent range. She can get up to range 5. You know, she's, you know, pretty good accuracy as well. No 100% hit for her. But she does, like I said, pretty decent accuracy. One interesting thing you could do with her, though, is she does have that 50% increased AP consumption debuff that she can apply to you. All right, Daniel, see you later, man. Thanks for coming in. And I think that that could be maybe an interesting pairing with somebody like Violet or Locke who can steal the AP from the unit. So that could be maybe an angle for Elsie to see some use. Outside of that, you know, I'm not sure, you know, on the longer map, you know, you would again need to maybe put a movement up TMR on her to get the maximum benefit from her. Violet, though, you know, could see some play, maybe some Locke Violet teams out there, maybe some Elena Violet teams. And that would leave you enough left over to with Locke and Violet, you could throw Fina in there to get some, maybe some accuracy down onto the enemy. And obviously, Full Life is still on the board as well. Obviously, you're not going to get some, you know, the HP benefit from it, but you still come back. You do not have enough cost if you're running, say, like Violet with Elena. You only have 50 left over, so you can't run Fina. But you could run somebody like Vistral in there, potentially. Yeah, Elsie does have armor, so she can bring Keenblade. So that's another option rather than using the movement up. She's going to be trailing behind your, other units, but, could potentially work out. Violet, I think, is very good for manual play, though, and that's mainly hinging on the fact that she has range. She has range 5, but she also has up to move 5 with her duelist self buff that she can bring to up her mobility. And obviously she has Immortal Spirit as well. So pretty strong. Her evade can definitely get up there. It's competitive with, some of the top units in the game. So I do like her quite a bit for manual play. And I expect to see some of her out there. Obviously she has those AP drain and CT up mechanics. So anybody out there looking to play either of these units? All right, so moving on to the next element here, and we have the ice elements, and the new kid on the block is Velis here. And Velis, very, very strong unit. Probably the best support unit in the game. And I would go so far to say, for both auto and manual, in my opinion, right now. He's relatively tanky. He can definitely take a hit. Especially if he gets his LB off. He gets that barrier as well. His heals are insane. Obviously, they're going to be neutered a bit in this rule set, but, like I was just talking about, you can hedge your bets there a little bit with some healing power, trust stones. I have made a trust stone set for him to get him the plus 20. And I think he has, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he has either 20 or 30 innately. So, he can almost completely erase the minus 50 from himself. And I'd say if you were going that route, you would want the healing power up on the bruiser that you pair him with. But he's got great utility. Obviously, haste, in a non-quicken rule set is it's borderline essential. You definitely want haste. His damage is definitely no slouch either. If you're able to build up his accuracy. His limit break, it does have 100% hit, but the rest of his attacks, you're going to need accuracy for those to hit evade units. And his accuracy isn't bad. He's got a 20 accuracy passive that he can get on himself. So he is able to be built up, and he can hit evade units for sure. But you do need to invest into it for that. He can get up to range 6 as well, if you take like calculator with him. So very strong unit, definitely expect to see some of this guy out there. I did add Gilgamesh in here as well. Gilgamesh just recently got his Mastery 2. And that helped his HP out in a big way. He got, I think, 250 flat HP, and then he got the 10% from the elemental buff. So it's not uncommon to see Gilgamesh now, like in, close up to 9,000 HP, like if you have Freezes in the party. He can definitely get up there now. Accuracy, as always, has been one of his biggest pain points. But he does get helped by his Mastery 2 because that gave him Armor of Destruction, which gives him a 30 accuracy buff. So that helps him out quite a bit. So he can definitely hit evade, for sure. Again, it's going to take investment into it. You know, thankfully, Ice does have the Odin card, which is pretty nice for that, so. I don't know how much we'll be seeing Gilgamesh out there, you know, without Quicken. But I do expect to see some Velis. Now, moving on to Wind, and really the only one that I could think of was Yerma here, which got her Mastery 2 relatively recently, you know, since our last CM anyway. And I kind of trashed on Yerma a little bit in my Mastery 2 video. And I'm mostly going to stick to that. You know, I don't think that she's great. But in a manual context, I think that she can be decent enough. Assuming that you don't run into a magical threat, right? She's really like negative 25 magic resist or something. Outside of that though, she has like some pretty decent tools. Like she's got move 4. She's got like impressive damage. Like if she gets in on you, like she can hit really, really hard. Especially with her limit break. And she's going to be wanting to get that limit break off on you. Because not only does it like improve her tankiness, but it also gives her Immortal Spirit now. And that limit break hits like a truck because it does now it does the Imperil now before the damage. And her attack can get up there like at 1500-ish, you know, sometimes even more. So if you see Yerma out there, definitely don't underestimate her. Don't let her hit you because you're probably going to die if she hits you. Again, though, the main sort of drawback with her Immortal Spirit is it is tied to that range 3 attack on her limit break. So if you can stay out of that sort of zone, then you can sort of focus her down relatively quickly. She does have another one. She does have a 100% hit in her repertoire. I think it's like a range 3 lion attack. Aside from that, you know, her accuracy is kind of pretty average or maybe even below average. So I don't know how much Yerma we're going to be seeing out there. Maybe Rindell will try to use her. I don't know. Isra says, I'd love to run Yerma and manual. I'd want Quicken on her, though. I agree. I think that she could be an interesting unit in like a Quicken, like sort of blitz team. This map is bad for her sure hit because it's range height 0. Yeah. Viking just has so many drawbacks. It's a really tough job. It's really hard to recover from, even with all the improvements that they've given to her. But yeah, I think there's definitely some space for her that she could be pretty decent in a Quicken scenario, though. All right, last one, guys, and this is Earth. And obviously we haven't got any Earth units into the game, you know, since back to Final Fantasy 15 collaboration. It's been a while. We did, though, since the last CM, get Lorenzo here. Or maybe he came in for the last CM. I can't quite remember. Either way, you know, this guy is relatively new. And this guy is legit, guys. He can wear, obviously, you know, glinting armor for Keen Blade. You know, he can haste with his Time Mage sub-job. He's actually got decent physical resistances, too. You know, pretty good slash and missile resistance, decent HP. He's got some base defense on there as well. So he's not somebody that you can take out in one hit unless you're like HLL or, you know, maybe Winter Loartha could probably take this guy out. The main drawback with this guy is going to be his agility. He's got pretty low agility. But aside from that, he's really strong, and one of the main things that makes him strong is his new EX ability, which You know, he can remove a Mortal Spirit, re-raise, protect, and shell all in one attack. So if anybody is trying to sort of approach you and they have that stuff on, you can delete those and then take them out. So that's a pretty strong thing to have, you know, as sort of a bouncer to your maybe your ranged party. Like if you're using this guy to provide the CT mechanics for you. His accuracy is okay too. He's got like a 40 accuracy buff that he gets in his EX. But otherwise, you're going to really need to build up his accuracy in order to hit like really max evade units. The nice thing though about his Dive of Destruction is all those dispels to those statuses come prior to the damage, so you still get value out of it even if you're maybe trying to build him more bulky or maybe for more agility. So I do expect to see Lorenzo out there. You know, I've been using him quite a bit. I think he's quite good. Being able to have a tool on at your disposal to remove both re-raise and Mortal Spirit is very, very good to have. So I do like this guy quite a bit. And that sort of wraps up what we've seen for new elements or new units coming into to the meta. I've kind of tried to touch on, you know, who I think we might be seeing more, you know, but we'll kind of have to see how it plays out. Logi says for that last spot, I hear a lot of back and forth between Lorenzo and MR Mont. Yeah, at that 50 cost level spot, you know, there's definitely some compelling units there. You know, Mont is definitely no slouch. He's got the move 4. You know, he can bring Keen Blade too. He's pretty tanky. And obviously his rock throw is great. Yeah, it kind of depends what you're trying to do. I think when you have no quicken and no haste, or if you want haste on your team, I think that Lorenzo is a little bit better. Hey Dervis, welcome in, man. Yeah, we're kind of getting to the back half here, and we just went through kind of all the units that have coming into the meta for this season. Now we're going to take a look at some of the manual strategies. And for folks in the chat maybe that don't know, like, I'm always catering this content here in terms of manual play because that's how I play it. I am definitely, you know, not the go-to guy or the, you know, the expert on autoplay. You know, I'm pretty decent with it. You know, I think I can hold my own there, but manual is kind of where it's at for me. So that's, you know, what I cater this towards. Yeah. Plenty of cheese going around in any mode of play. Speaking of cheese, though, let's take a look at what Cheese Blade is going to look like on this map, if we see it. And I think that's if you're going to want to run, I mean, obviously if you're going to run a Cheese Blade comp, you need to get value out of your turn 1 attack with Little Leela. And to do that, I really think that this is the only position that is viable for it. And I'll show you why here. So we're sort of, let's mock it out, right? So obviously, you know, Stern is going to CT up the party here. So you need that affinity positioning for that as well. He'll move up, right? He's got move 4. Now, in terms of Little Leela, this is what she's going to be able to do from turn 1. And there is a specific reason I have positioned her here. You know, she obviously does have move 4 as well. She could potentially move to this square here. But we'll see why in a second here once Eldyra moves up. But anyway, Leela is able to hit P10 from turn 1, assuming that somebody's lined up there. Eldyra can move up. She can LB. And this is why you have to use this positioning, right? Because if Leela is moved up here, the AoE height is not going to work. for the range there. Because, you know, say you wanted to, so her LB has range 3, right? So if you moved Eldyra here and then casted it on Leela, you're not going to be able to hit Stern with it. Because he's not going to be able to get into range. It's just a cross AoE. At least in terms of how I've mocked this out, I think this is the only way to do it. If anybody else has looked at it and has seen something else, definitely let me know. But obviously then you have that CT up. Stern can move forward. He can either hit P4 or P10 from his initial attack here. So he can throw like his, you know, his Anton ability or whatever. Doton, I forget what his is called. Unfortunately, he's not going to be able to... Actually, I think actually he can hit... He can actually target with his cross AoE actually here and hit both of these guys. Actually, now that I'm looking at this. Right, he can target this square, and with an AoE range of 1, he'll be able to hit both P4 and P10. Leela is going to be able to follow up, and she's going to have to make a choice to either hit P1 and P10 or P4 and P10, I believe, due to like the AoE heights here. I don't think that she can hit all 3 because she would have to target this one, I believe, to do that. And the range height is not enough. This only has AoE height 1. Dervis says, is this map available? It is available in friendly match. Yeah. So, yeah. This is Mines 2. So this strategy is definitely viable, but only if the opponent is lined up in this position here. Right? If they're lined up down here, you could maybe kind of shift over and you might be able to get 1 hit on them with Leela. But you're not going to be able to even hit all 3 of them. You might be able just to hit these 2 or maybe even just this one. So, you know, assuming you can find people lined up directly across here, you know, that's really the only viable way that you have like a, you know, a win with this strategy, in my opinion. So I think it's a pretty risky play, you know, in terms of Cheeseblade. You know, I don't think that we're going to be seeing a lot of it because of that. What are you guys thinking here? And you could, I mean, if you're anticipating a lot of people running in this lower area here, you could potentially look at lining up here. But again, so say you have Leela at E10, right? She can move up 4 from there. 1, 2, 3, 4. She's not going to be able to hit anybody from turn 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. She can only hit right here at P10. Or this one right below P11, I guess. So I don't really see a lot of viability for this strat, and assuming people aren't just, you know, teeing themselves up and lining up here, you know, people would probably start moving away from this strategy pretty quickly. All right, next strategy, Blitz rushes. And I'm just using the common one here, right? With, you know, Katone, Zazan, Mont. This is sort of the classic rush strat. Obviously, there's other permutations of this. You know, we just talked about like Astrius and Farm. You know, there's a lot of different units you could use. But sort of the main thing you're looking at for, you know, there is units with 4 to 5 mobility, and then a Keen Blade to sort of come in behind and sort of help push them forward. And I did line up kind of in a non-like optimal affinity for just so that Mont is able to get up and put that Keen Blade onto them. And you'll be able to get the maximum distance. If you had Mont lined up here in E7, you're not going to be able to push up as far with your two rushers. But you can see here, Katone, she can actually only move up 4 to be able to get benefit here. Zazan can move up 4. And then Mont can come in. You can Keen Blade. You can then push forward with Katone. And this is sort of her... She's going to be here on height 3. I think her LB only has range height 1, I believe, and it's range 3. So she's not going to be able to hit this back row with her LB anyway. She can hit P10. So again, I mean, this strategy is kind of hedging on that somebody is lined up here across from you. Zazan can come in. He can Taunting Blade. You know, he can target P6 and hit both P10 and P4. Mont can come in. He can Rock Throw from there, or Taunting Blade or whatever. Obviously, though, I mean, Mont is then coming in without his Immortal Spirit, so he's sacrificed some tankiness. I don't know, at least for this particular permutation where you're sort of lined up here in this aggressive spot to kind of be pushed forward the most, I don't see sort of this turn 1 blitz being super viable unless, you know, again, people are just teeing up and lining up on the left side. So I think that's my main takeaway, you know, in terms of looking at these strats is I'm definitely staying away from this side of the map, at least early on until I can kind of see what people are playing. I'm going to be looking at playing on the right side of the map. Isvar says for Blitz, I'd assume it to be a tankier non-turn 1 variant. Yeah, agreed. This is for like the aggressive style one, right? Where you're looking to kind of get right in there on turn 1 and 2. And personally, I don't find like the delayed rush, at least at that point, you have some time to sort of play around it, right? You're going to have some opportunities to get a couple of turns in and counter it. It's much harder when, you know, obviously, like if this was the only place you could line up and, you know, they're right in your face on turn 2 and, you know, they're going to be getting their turn 2 first. So at that point, you really only have had one turn to sort of try to counteract what they're doing. Much harder to deal with in that kind of scenario, obviously. But again, I'm not seeing it as super viable, at least from this aggressive sort of, you know, turn 1 type play. If anybody else has looked at this, you know, feel free to pipe in. But you know, obviously, like Isvar was saying there, you could be playing maybe a more conservative setup, maybe somewhere in the middle, and kind of doing a delayed rush where you sort of get into a position, you know, throw up your Immortal Spirits, your re-raise, etc., and then sort of push in for like a turn 3 sort of rush. And I think that's definitely more viable. It's you know, I think that you'll have better success trying to take that approach. And that's kind of what I was looking at here with this sort of flying Mon strategy. And in this one, I'm lined up in the middle, and I'm lining up in the middle to give myself opportunity to go to either direction here. Right, this gives me the flexibility to go either left or right, depending on how the enemy is sort of offset. Oberon Noctis style units would be good on the rush style. For sure. Definitely. I think that could be a pretty strong team. Oberon Noctis, you know, that's 190. You still have 50 left over, so you could put Mont in there as well. Prince Mont for that that rush. But yeah, the Flying Mont, you know, obviously we're not lined up here with maximum affinity, but the trade-off there is that you have the flexibility to potentially go either direction. And the only reason I would do this is if I was looking to, again, get something off on that like early sort of turn 2, kind of catch somebody off guard. And with this strategy, personally, I would agility tune so that Setia has my highest agility. She can come in, she can do single target resistance onto Mont. He's definitely going to need that if he's going in on the approach, right? Because the enemy is going to get, you know, a chance to retaliate at least one turn for all 3 of their units, right? So she brings in the single target resistance, or maybe you could even look at a barrier there as well. Either way. And for this particular strategy, I would be looking at running King Mont with Kane's TMR or some movement up TMR so that he's got move 5, right? So he can then position here. Again, you can mirror this, right? So he could be moving up here as well. So he's going to be able to go to either direction on the mine carts. Zazan, of course, can move in, and he can then Keenblade. And this is where Mont is going to be able to get on his second turn, right? So that's another 5. And he's got that burst style AoE, so it goes out 2 squares in either direction, centered on him. And obviously you can see there he's not hitting anybody. He's not hitting anybody, assuming they've stayed in this position, right? But, you know, maybe they've moved up, right? Maybe they've moved up to try to take the bait and, you know, try to take Mont out. In that case, you know, maybe he's going to be able to hit somebody. So meanwhile, what you might be able to do is then you could move Setia, you know, maybe over to E13. And, you know, that's going to give her Overwatch, right? At that point, she can move in, buff up her range, and then she's ready to go for her turn 3. At that point, you know, Zazan, he could move in for the charm threat. He could move back and maybe buff Maneater on Setia, either way. If the enemy hasn't moved here, or maybe they've retreated into the corner, you know, on their turn 1, instead of, you know, doing your Berserk here, you could move it to your, you know, move here, and then you use your CT up move, right? Use Kalim's Pride. And if you have that comboed with the haste, you still may be able to get your turn 3 off before the enemy gets their turn 2, right? Obviously, it depends on which buffs that the enemy has used. Like if they've used haste or if they've used agility, that's going to be much harder to pull off. But the potential is there, right? You can look at what the CT is looking at in that moment. Alternatively, like if the play isn't there, you know, you could hedge your bets, maybe throw some AoE damage out and hope that Setia is going to have enough to finish them off, you know, on her turn 3. So I definitely see some viability to this strat, right? And you can maybe adapt this over the week. You know, if everybody is lining up down here, you can then begin, you know, offsetting yourself, bringing yourself down into this position. And obviously from turn 2, then Mont is going to have an easy layup to Berserk probably multiple units. He's going to be able to get to this position here if he's lined up starting from E13. So I think that's pretty cool. And this is always a strategy we have to worry about. You know, people always, you know, there's always a few people out there running this sort of, you know, Flying Mont or Berserk Mont strat. Isra says, I think tuning this to get Kalem's Pride on the advance would be worth it. Yeah. I think it can. I'm frankly, I'm pretty worried about this strat. I think this is a pretty good strategy. So you guys are welcome, or also sorry if everybody starts running it. But yeah, this is my main reason that I'm bringing Berserk Resistance to my party. Because I'm most worried about this blowing me up, you know, on turn 2 or turn 3. All right, so speaking of, I mean, obviously a lot of those blitz style strats that we were just looking at, they rely on this status to sort of, you know, debilitate your team. What is the trust stone, you know, that what are the trust stones that we have access to? What is the impact that those are bringing to the game? And I just put a quick slide together here. King Mont, we were just looking at, you know, whoops. On a 50 faith target, you know, he's going down to a 62% chance. 30 faith, he's going down to almost a coin flip there. And all these, of course, you know, your status inflictor, you're looking at 97 faith for that unit. But if you hit any mages with this, you know, King Mont and Kitone as well with her stop, you know, they're going to have still a very good chance to get that off at more than 80%. So just a single trust stone, at least on the limit break status, it's not enough that you can stop worrying about it, right? You're still going to want, you know, maybe Luel's TMR or Moore's TMR to give yourself immunity, in my opinion. I do think Charm is maybe the odd man out. You know, if I'm running a 50 faith unit, that's going to throw Zazan's chance, you know, at maybe 1 in 3. So it's definitely, you know, obviously it can still happen. That's still like, you know, well above 0, but it might be to the point where he might think twice about using it, you know, if it's putting him in a bad position. Whereas, you know, if it was still that 50% base chance, you know, without the trust stone, you know, obviously that's going to be doubled, so. Personally, I am running Charm Resistance in all my Trust Stone sets for CM play. How about you guys out there? Generally, I have paired that with Stop. But, you know, I'll have to kind of see how it plays out with Kitone. Yeah. Berserk, I'm still bringing, I think, Moore's TMR to, if I can fit it in. You know, that's the hard part, right? Because obviously you want, you know, obviously you still want Keen Blade potentially. You still want, you know, your barrier. So, you know, those TMR spots are definitely at a premium. But I thought this was sort of an interesting thing to look at. Isvar says, if I see another Mont, I just nod and accept the Berserk as brothers in arms. Yeah. I mean, Berserk is a scary one, right? Because you take so much more damage when you're under that status. So, you know, Setia can clean up, you know, if you're playing this strategy here. So we looked at the rush strats. What about the other common one? And that's going to be range strats. And I'm not going to look too closely, you know, at formations here. I think it's going to be, you know, these range teams are always going to be in these back 2 rows, in my opinion. You know, they're going to be staged there and sort of probably waiting for you to advance. You know, if the, you know, if it sort of fits, you know, they might be able to move into rows 3 and 4. But yeah, primarily I'm expecting them to be camping back until the time is right. But assuming that, you know, they're starting from row 2 here, you know, Setia, for example, you know, she has range 9. Assuming, and again, this is all actives and passives sort of applied, right? You know, if their active buff has been dispelled or runs off, you know, you can subtract 1 from these values. But I don't have Uni pictured here, but if he gets an active buff, he can get up to range 11 with his barrage attack, which is crazy. And if you think about it, you know, if he had maybe even like Summer Lilith's TMR, you know, he could get up to range 12. So he's pretty much, you know, from, you know, assuming that he was camping back on his second turn, he could hit, you know, all the way to the other side of the map. Once you include movement. Uni is interesting. I feel like we might see some of him this go around. So this is sort of the first time I'm including him here. But with Astrius in the picture now, like I feel like that 40 cost next to Astrius, I feel like he has pretty good value, like pretty good synergy. Like he can bring that move down, he can knock down the CT mechanics from the range. And like as we saw, we're not as worried about the blitz strats, you know, potentially on this map. So that gives Uni some time, you know, to kind of counteract a little bit of his weakness, which is his low agility. He doesn't need to be worried about potentially getting off the CT down on the first move. And that barrage that he has also does dispel haste as well, if I remember correctly. So. But yeah, these are sort of the main ones that I'm sort of looking at being worried about. You know, Uni, Setia, Jaden, Joker, and Frederica. Prompto, you know, is going to be in that conversation as well. Maybe some core wells out there. So that's about it, guys. So what are sort of the conclusions, the questions that we're coming to as we kind of go into this CM? And I had a few comments here. You know, first, I think that the Trust Stone divide that we're going to see between, you know, the more maybe casual players and the hardcore players, I think we're going to see that much more pronounced this class match. You know, we saw a little bit of that in the last class match, where maybe some folks were able to grind up if they were buying those, you know, with the paid viz, they were able to maybe get 1 or 2 sets online. I think this go around, it's going to be much more pronounced though, because the people who have been grinding this are going to have, you know, specific sets that they built for their specific units, for their specific strategies. And the more casual players, I think, are going to be left behind if they haven't been working on those, and that's going to be pretty tough for them. My second sort of question here is, how much of a splash are the Persona units going to make in this CM? Personally, I see Joker as being the bigger wild card there. I do expect to see him. Violet, we might see here and there too. You know, like I said, I do like her on this map, and I do like her for manual play in particular. My third point here is, how much water are we going to see? You know, we have talked a little bit about Astrius. We've talked a little bit about Uni. Isvar says Joker and Violet will make appearances for sure. Yeah, 100%. How much of it, you know, is remains to be seen, but I personally am going to try out Joker because, you know, I've been kind of hyped for him for a while, and, you know, I do like to play him. I like his skills and what he brings to the table, so. But yeah, much to Isvar's chagrin, I do expect to see some water. I do expect to see Astrius, maybe some Unis and some Winter Victoras. At least more than we've seen, you know, in the past. It's been a while since we've seen really much water at all. You know, it's only been sort of sprinkled in here very, very rarely. But Astrius, I think, changes that in a big way, and he's a very strong unit, and I think people are going to want to play him. So my next observation here is, what about like the accuracy versus evade sort of push-pull that's been going on for a while? I think last CM we definitely saw that evade was able to get out, I think, to a bigger head start, you know, with Locke coming in, with the Trust Stones. I think people were able to build up, at least I think people were focusing a little bit more on luck and evade in the last CM. I think, though, that accuracy is going to have caught up in general, and it's going to be harder to run evade now, especially for people who have really focused on accuracy. And on top of that, we do have some very good 100% hit units in the meta. You know, Joom and Terra still exist. You know, very nice bruisers who bring 100% hits. So I do think evade is going to have a tougher time. You know, the trend for, you know, high accuracy on units is definitely starting, you know, with Prompto. Very, very high accuracy unit, and that trend is going to continue as we sort of go into the next several months. My last point here is, with this sort of longer 15 tile map that we've been looking at here today, are those camping range teams going to, you know, are they going to be the meta? Are they going to be what the top 10 is going to be running, you know, as we sort of go into this season? You know, just looking at it on paper here, as we've done today, I do think that the range team has the advantage, just because that the blitz play is a little tougher to pull off, you know, and get the early, you know, pounce early onto the enemy. If this were like an 11 or 12 tile long map, you know, that's much easier for a blitz team to traverse. And get, you know, great value out of like a turn 2 blitz. So for that reason, and, you know, I do think that range has a pretty nice advantage here. But we'll kind of see what happens, you know, over the week, and, you know, certainly some interesting questions and some things to watch. I'm going to try to do some sort of live spectating kind of during this, you know, 2 p.m. Eastern window. Maybe do some shoutcasting on some matches. Maybe not every day, but maybe a couple days here this week. And we'll kind of see how it goes and see what we're seeing out there for teams. So it should be pretty interesting. But yeah, so that's about all that I had for today, guys. I think I'm gonna call the stream here, and I will probably see you guys tomorrow, like maybe around 2 p.m. Eastern. We'll do the kickoff day and look at spectating some games if the client allows it. So I hope this was helpful for you guys. I'm gonna try to maybe cut this down a little bit and throw it up on YouTube, and, you know, hopefully some more players will be able to see it, and, you know, maybe that will spawn some interest for playing in manual and get some fresh blood out there for us. But yeah, we will obviously I'll catch you guys on Discord, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. So I will catch you later. Have a great one, guys. Bye-bye.